Hello Rayclast, welcome to the Path of Exile build guide for the Blight Boomer Occultist. This was my league starter for the Ritual League, and this is going to be one of the low production value build guides because I don't have a ton of time to put into this one right now, and you'll probably hear some background noise as well because we got a new bird that we're working on training. This build I took all the way to endgame. It's a really well-rounded build. You can do any map mods. It's got fast clear speed, good survivability for most content, and it's one I would definitely recommend as a league starter. I think it turned out really well. It's really cheap to get going, as you'll see in the gearing section, and it can do all of the content up to the new endgame content that was introduced in this expansion. It can do Shaper, Cirrus, and all of that stuff just fine. I will stick in a Cirrus video at the end of the video guide so that you can see that. It doesn't handle the new endgame stuff very well. It turns out most of the endgame stuff is just a raw DPS check, and I will have another guide for the new character that I made to do the endgame stuff in a couple days. But for now, I can definitely recommend this one as an excellent league starter. As usual, you can find a path of building and any other info that you might want in the description of this video, so be sure to check this out if you want to look at everything in detail. For now, I'll just leave you with the rest of this Minotaur map clear, and then we'll hop in-game and talk about all of the gearing and passive tree decisions and whatnot that have been made for this character.
Defended. Defended. Times atrophy. Shielded. Defended. Oh, acceptable. Another.
That stretches the sanity of the mind.
Alright everyone, here we are in game, and we will just do a quick rundown of all the different things I am doing and using on this character. We will start off with the unique items. The first one that this character is kind of built around is the Cane of Unraveling Staff. I think it's a pretty underrated staff in general. It gets really good chaos damage over time multiplier and general chaos damage, plus the level of all skills, chaos spell skills, And it gives you really good power charge bonuses, cast speed and mana regen per power charge, and it generates power charges. So I think it's really solid and pretty underrated. The other uniques we are using is the Ailer Dex. I kind of wanted to go hard on the whole power charge theme in this build, so that's why we're going with the Ailer Dex. Gives us another power charge and a bunch of mana regen, plus damage taken from mana before life per power charge. And finally, you want an Essence Worm Unset Ring. This lets us run Malevolence at no mana cost, and then we reserve a chunk of our mana using a Blasphemy Temporal Chain setup. Otherwise, you are not going to have enough mana left unreserved for Mind Over Matter to be very good, so you definitely need to use an Essence Worm. Beyond that, the rares are pretty simple. You definitely want to cap your res, and on this character, I recommend capping your Chaos res. It's really easy because you get 80 on the tree between the Occultist Ascendancy and the Life Node cluster near the Templar, so you don't need much more Chaos res to cap out, so I think it's worth doing. And beyond that, you just want to try to get as much life, energy shield, and mana as possible on the character because we are hybrid plus Mind Over Matter. So all three of those things are good for us. Try to get a Blight enchantment on your helmet if you can. It's a nice chunk of extra damage. Now we'll go through the gem links. Our main skill setup, of course, is Blight. I recommend picking up a 21-23 Vol Blight off of PoE Trade. They're super cheap because no one plays Blight. And Vol Blight is really nice when you need a big burst of clear if you're getting overwhelmed in a ritual or whatever. For support gems, we use Controlled Destruction, Infused Channeling. This is nice not only because it improves the damage of the Blight, but when we have the infusion buff up, it also improves the damage of our Essence Drain. Then we're using Swift Affliction, Void Manipulation, and Efficacy. I recommend the Anomalous Efficacy version because the quality gives extra duration, which is nice for getting a higher maximum amount of Blight stacks on a target, especially since you have to use Swift Affliction because there's really no other good support gem option, and it counteracts the reduced duration from that. For our secondary setup, that is just used for boosting our single target, we use Essence Drain. Unfortunately, I've only got a level 20 Essence Drain. I tried leveling and corrupting a bunch, but none of them went to 21, so we're still just on a 20 Essence Drain. You want to link that to Efficacy, Controlled Destruction, Void Manipulation, and Swift Affliction, and the only final link for Essence Drain is Empower. Again, I've only got a 3 here because I didn't feel like investing in buying a 4 for this character. That could definitely help solve some of the single target issues with this character. You'd get quite a bit more damage if you got a 21 Essence Drain and a level 4 Empower. That'd be 2 extra levels, which is pretty big for Essence Drain. As far as our utility setups go, we are of course using Blasphemy and Temporal Chains. I went for Anomalous Blasphemy here. It just gives it a buttload more area of effect, so you can really easily cover the whole screen with your Temporal Chains at the cost of a little bit of Curse efficacy. But that doesn't really matter because it's not doing that much to bosses anyways, so I think it's worth to just cover the whole screen so you make sure your explosions are working really well. We also use a cast when damage taken setup with Steel Skin. Basically, I've just leveled this as high as I can with the amount of strength that I had available on the character, and if you get some more strength, then you should probably level it higher because we've got a really big pool, so you want that Steel Skin and cast when damage taken as high as possible. For our movement, we use Flame Dash, linked to Arcane Surge, Second Wind, and Increased Duration. A level 9 Arcane Surge is the highest you can go to have the Flame Dash still proc it in 1. You could go higher and go up to the point where you're proccing it in 2, because realistically you will have Flame Dash twice in the past 8 seconds most of the time. And we use the Increased Duration because it increases the duration of the Arcane Surge buff. Finally, we are using Spell Totems, linked to Multiple Totems and Wither. This lets us stack up Wither really fast on bosses when we plop down 3 totems. And we have a Clarity. I'll talk about the reason for the Clarity a little bit more when we go over the passive tree. As far as your flasks go, we do have a decent amount of block on this character, and we boost it more with a Rumi's Concoction, really nice for defense. I recommend a Silver Flask somewhere. This is nice for getting your stacks up a lot faster because it's a big cast speed boost, and it gives you some move speed and whatnot, and you definitely want to get heat and warding somewhere. You'll want a Mana Flask for when you get chunked down with Mind Over Matter. I recommend an Enduring Mana Flask of Warding. The Enduring with Warding is also really nice for keeping you permanently curse immune when you're doing curse maps. And finally, of course, you want a Witchfire Brew for that big damage over time boost and the level 21 Despair Curse aura. I'm also using my typical Catalyzed Eternal Life Flask of Staunching that you'll be familiar with if you've watched any of my build guides. So that does it for the basic gear. Now we will take a look over the passive tree. We are, of course, starting as a witch, going out through the spell damage and cast speed. You could do the spell damage here if you wanted to up both your essence drain and blight damage. I prefer the cast speed for getting to higher blight stacks faster. There's a general focus, as you'll see going through the tree, of trying to get life and mana and energy shield. So we've got life and mana, energy shield mana. We go through some AoE here. We grab staff block stuff and spell block stuff, which also has mana on it. Of course, we want to grab all the power charges we go by, which, we go to grab all 3 of them on the tree because we are heavily focusing on power charges. Grab a spreading rot jewel, really nice for blight, makes it so the hinder lasts a lot longer and so your blight applies withered, and it is usually pretty cheap to get this corrupted affix with corrupted blood cannot be inflicted on you on something like spreading rot, which is really nice for the Cirrus fight in particular. As we progress through the tree, we're again grabbing more life, mana, and energy shield. We grab all the chaos damage stuff we go by, and some nice staff AoE and cast speed. In here again, we've got more mana and energy shield stuff and cast speed. Life and mana. Grab mind over matter for sure. This is that life node cluster I was mentioning that also gives chaos resist. Power charges, more energy shield. Down here is where I was mentioning why we're using Clarity. It is just a level 1 Clarity, and we're just using it for this Watcher's Eye that gives 10% of damage taken from mana before life while affected by Clarity. This is totally unnecessary. It's just a nice little extra boost to your mind over matter efficiency, but it's also like by far the most expensive item in the build. They're like 8 exalts right now. So if you don't want to spend that much on the build, you can definitely forego that Watcher's Eye Jewel, and I would probably just replace this Clarity with a faster casting to make the totem stack wither even faster. More life, staff stuff for block and cast speed. We also have staff stuff here for AoE and cast speed. AoE and damage here. I definitely think it's worth it to go up to Wicked Ward. If you can find a second in a fight to get your energy shield started on recharging, then it will keep recharging even if you get hit again. More life and energy shield, chaos damage stuff, our final power charge, and the rest of the chaos damage over time stuff. I have Anointed Whispers of Doom. You want that for the second curse so that you can have both your Temp Chains and Despair applying to enemies. Whispers of Doom is like the most expensive anoint on the tree. It's 3 golden oils, so if you want to save some money there, instead of anointing Whispers of Doom, you can travel to Whispers of Doom in 1, 2, 3, 4 points, which is the same 4 points you would spend over here, and then you can just anoint Mental Rapidity, which is super cheap to anoint. I should mention that, corrupted whatever chest is fine. I paid 60 chaos for this 6-link chest, and I think I paid like 50 chaos for a 6-link Cane of Unraveling because no one uses it. So this build's definitely really cheap and easy to get started in, and you don't have to get the more expensive items like the Clarity Watcher's Eye if you don't want to. For our Ascendancy, we have, of course, chosen the Occultist. One of the most important things is the Profane Bloom. That was actually the whole main motivation for playing this character. Profane Bloom got buffed a lot in 3.13 because the chance to explode went up to 40%, so now we can really reliably blow up whole screens as soon as one mob dies. And we scale a lot of chaos damage, so we pretty much have it scaled up to the point where the explosion is 100% of the mob's life, so they chain through packs really easily. Then you want Void Beacon for the minus chaos res on enemies, and of course Withering Presence for any chaos damage over time build, or in fact any chaos damage build now that it is just general more chaos damage. It gives you a bunch of chaos res as mentioned, so it makes it really easy to cap out. This last choice is a bit of a toss-up, honestly. I went for the power charge thing just because I was really focused on doing the whole power charge meme with Cane of Unraveling and Ailer decks on this build, and it does give a lot of damage and AoE. But in general, you'll probably get more damage if you go over to Malediction, and it'll be better defensively, and you could just totally drop the whole Whispers of Doom thing because you wouldn't need another curse, which could save either passive points or a bunch of money on an anoint, which you could then spend on a different node. If you're playing hardcore, or even softcore really, I'd probably recommend going Malediction. I'm just being stubborn about the power charge thing, so I'm sticking with Forbidden Power. As far as the bandits go, as usual on pretty much any build that isn't a crit build, you're just killing all the bandits for 2 passive points. Finally, we will take a look at the Pantheon. I'm using the Soul of the Brine King just to make it so you can't be chain stunned. We don't have any good source of stun immunity on this build, so you'll definitely want that Pantheon. Second one's up to you. I like Rislotha just for the life charge flask, or life flask charge generation, and you definitely want the upgrade for that. That gives you the 60% recovery when on low life. That'll make it so you can heal really fast with your catalyzed Eternal Flask if you get knocked low through all of your energy shield and mana protection. So now I will just leave you guys with a Cirrus boss fight and a little outro at the end, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you all so much for watching. I will leave you with the rest of this Cirrus video if you want to check that out. If you want to support the channel, you can either use the join function below the video or that new cheer thing YouTube has added in, but the best way you can support is just by sharing the video with your friends and upvoting the Reddit thread, which I will also link in the video description. Again, thank you all for watching and supporting the channel, and there will be a new build guide for an endgame content crusher character in a few days, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you all in Rayclast.
I am Thunder. I am not so cool.
Beyond, there is only horror. Die. Be out. Die. Beyond, there is only horror. Die. Your life.
All this pain.
Die. 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 This beyond, there is only horror.
Meaning.
Is everlasting fire. Die. This is doom.
Meaning.